back once again, yours truly. This is indeed the 10th reading report. Here I am, taking a little walk around the hills of the marvellous heavenly place called Tavrida, or in other words, Crimea as it's politically named. Although I do actually prefer it to be called Tavrida. Yes, because the land of Tours, which was built by ancient Greeks, built, I don't know. I mean, probably there wasn't that much built at that time, but at least these guys, yes, they would have known ways of living a good life. The so-called halara, a Greek word actually meaning something. Well, for me, as a Russian, it probably means something similar to nirvana. You know, a state of sheer bliss, which overrides everything, all the worries of life. Yes, because, well, here we are. Life is worth living to begin with, and living in a place like Crimea is probably a heavenly gift. Here we are, right all over the hill. So, yeah, what's happening on the front? Yeah, right now. Well, I can see more Z trucks. Well, actually not so loaded with people. I'm talking about the troops. I'm talking about the soldiers. I'm talking about the Rusky warriors out on a hunt for the Nazi invaders, sponsored by banksters. But, well, yes, it is what's going on at the moment. I mean, if we're talking about the fields of the theatre of informational war and the so-called special operation included, as I said, a special military policing operation, which is now held by the Russian Federation inside the former Soviet Ukrainian Republic, which has been torn by ethnic conflict, unbelievable rate of corruption, all kinds of gangster, criminal and right-wing gangs which have been freely blossoming through the years. As a matter of fact, you would have to probably take into consideration, but you see, well, every time a Westerner is like, who are we talking about? Who are these Nazis, for God's sake? I was like, yeah, well, here's the difference. Because, well, in the 90s there was a certain fight within, in the streets, within the streets of England, Europe, and others, and Germany, where they would have sort of Nazi punks, these skinheads, and all these youngsters who were actually poor. You see, as I told you before in one of my previous reports, I told you that you see, in the 90s or in the 80s, when the Soviet Union actually fell, many became, well, sort of fascinated by this right-wing philosophy, or say agenda, or this attitude towards the world, because they would have seen, the older guys, the older Russians would have seen how the German soldiers were dressed as they were approaching and marching into the Soviet Union. They were well dressed because it was none other than himself, Hugo Boss, who created the designs. I mean, take it or leave it. And you have to understand that the German Nazi regime is what we are used to call it these days. We also call it the fascist regime, which is not absolutely right. Well, it is in a way, but the genuine name was National Socialist Regime. So everything for the nation, and everything, all all these social qualities of normal, red socialism, but only to the representatives of the nation. So the idea was not that bad, like in the core of it. I mean, but then again, you see, it was a different kind of a story, a different agenda back in the days. I mean, in Germany or in most European countries, they would have seen white European, old European, North European, which would mean blonder hair, blue eyes, the so-called the white Aryan race, and that was for a long time officially considered to be the best way possible, along with Hispanic, Italians. They were like a little bit darker, and yet everyone was, each one of them, was most probably proud to have blue eyes, even if he was, for instance, a Romanian. And I've seen it even like in recent times. Moms would be very delighted to have whiter, pale-looking skinned children in like places like Bulgaria or Romania, Moldova, where they're a little bit darker, having this little Latin, or I can say Osman, flavour to them. So they'd be proud if their kids would have blue eyes. Yes. So yes, it was a very actually it was quite well nourished, quite a well nourished soil for growth of white supremacy theory in places like Ukraine, which was not actually. I mean, the thing about Ukraine and Western Ukraine or Poland or these places, they have this sort of a Slavic supremacy myth about them, and it's all about them being the whitest of the white. So they sort of want to be friendly with Sweden, Norway, and all these other guys who are not as white as they used to be, because, well, Europe is not white anymore. Europe is. It does not have to be. It does not have to be a place of white people anymore. Now, so yes, and Ukrainians were a little bit late about this one. So, so they ended up being a little bit Nazi. And yes, so this Nazism flourished, and their flag, as they used to say about it, like the yellow of our hair, the gold of our hair, and the blue of our eyes. This is the flag of Ukraine. So is the flag of Sweden. Look at them; they are blonde and blue-eyed, and yes, we're sort of brotherly. And you Russians are, damn you Russians, you're just a mixture of everything. And yes, and you have to actually. So this theory of being in disposition towards Russians as not being Slavic or not being white enough has been growing in the minds of the neo-Nazi Ukrainians, young skinheads, perpetuated and sponsored or even armed from the West. And this is what we're having at the moment, my dear friends. Some mouths would be shut, the others would be probably killed. But what I'm saying is, we all have to bear in mind that these people are absolutely the same as all of us. It's just that they've been dragged into some brainwash. Anyways, if you've got any questions, welcome. You can write your question. If you want to shit around, go and get yourself shitted. As they say. Well, I'll be back in a bit of a while. You take care, guys. This was indeed none the less than the Just Reading Report coming at you. Woo, bye-bye.